Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 35 of Into the Dungeonverse. This show is brought to you by NewMinds.tv and Masters of the Dungeonverse, the role-playing program that I'm able to bring to you through New Minds Enrichment. We play games online and teach people how to play and experience the benefits of role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, Star Wars, and many more. So this is episode 35. It's actually the last episode of season 1, this first iteration, this first sequence of this online content that we've been providing. All of this is available for free on newminds.tv, and it's also on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page. So you can watch it whenever you want and however you want. So that's all available for you forever. So today is Friday, which means that we are wrapping up the week with our role-playing resources. Yesterday we concluded our interactive quest, and now today we're entering the final stage of our role-playing resources. We've been creating different encounters, different areas, and now we're going to kind of piece them all together and give you a place to go from here. So as always, the idea with this is to show you, give you a little bit of an insight into how someone might create these things, but then also as we polish it up and create a final version for you, you can download it and use it for your own games. This is always supposed to serve as a basis, and remember that this is just one way to do it. There are plenty of other ways to create things, and you might find one that works a little bit better for you, but you might take parts of this that work for you. It's all about observing the different things that are out there and seeing what you can apply to your own skills and talents. So with that, we will hop right in to the interactive, or to our drawing segment. So I'm going to hop over to my screen here and we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so to recap just a little bit, the very first one we made was the Croaking Toad, and that was where we met the basis for our encounter. And the second thing, that was where we got our plot hook, right? We met Jarl, a young adventurer. And then we went to the destination. Our place that we were trying to go was the temple. But we had a forest ambush on the way, which actually introduced another plot hook for us, another thing to kind of see where our players were interested in going. We also got some lore here about monster slaying heroes. Again, kind of playing and seeing what our players are interested in. Alright, so today we're going to conclude by making a little bit of a region map, tying this all together and giving us a place to go forward. So we're going to tie all of this together in one map, and then we're going to show where we can go from here, populate it a little bit, or maybe start thinking about what could be in there. And from here, this will be the starting area for your adventures. This is where they're going to be able to start moving around, exploring different things, exploring those plot hooks that you said, and then we'll leave it to where you can go off into the rest of the continent, and we'll leave that kind of blank for you, so that way you can adapt it to what you want. This area can be completely different from the rest of the continent that you end up creating, or it can be kind of representative of what you might expect. So let's make a big old line over that, make that tab invisible, and create a new one. So far the points of interest that we have in our world are the town where we have the Croaking Toad. We have a temple somewhere in the woods. We have a main road we talked about, because we remember that this goes kind of off the beaten path into the hills, and then there is a place that we were ambushed. Okay, our map is not going to look like that. We're going to make it look a lot better. So I think we should start with the town. We'll start with the town map. We'll come up with a name for this town by the end. But for now, we're going to start with just a road coming into town. That's a good place to start, because everything has to have a road connected to it. So we'll start with a road coming into town. I'm actually going to move our going to move our town map label off a little bit up here, that way we have plenty of space. Okay, the road's going to curve out. Makes sense to have our stables right in front, so we're going to put some stables right here to start us off. And of course, you remember my issue with scale, so we'll have to come back in and we'll zoom out as always as we make this bigger and bigger. So we'll make our gate here for the stable. This will be one of the first places you visit on your way into town if you're traveling, right? Because you have to drop off your horses. Because you're not going to walk them through the whole town. That's a lot of work when you can just drop them off here and someone's going to take care of them. Draw the rest of the barn there. The big barn doors. Okay, and we'll make some rails here to show the little fence. Okay, so we have our stables right here in the front of town. Okay, we'll zoom out a little bit more as we continue making this town and continue fleshing it out. In the center of town is going to be a couple of different things that we might expect. We'll put some grassland around our stables. So we're actually going to go ahead and delete that town map that I wrote. Obviously, we know it's a town map at this point. We'll have a fence here. This is a pen for the horses. Makes sense to have right there on the outside of town. So then we'll bring this over here, this little road area. And we're going to put some houses here. This might be where some of the people who work at the stable would live, or farmers that live nearby. So we'll put some houses here. Okay, continuing to zoom out as we make it bigger and bigger. But that's okay, because that kind of allows me to draw some nicer detail up front. Then we'll put some farms out here. The only issue is that I'll have to make my lines a little bit darker as I continue to expand that. But that's fine. That's part of the way this particular drawing program works, is it has like this infinitely scalable canvas. So here's our farmland. I'll darken up these lines. So that way we know what we are looking at. There's our barn. Go stables. Write that again. Okay, and then some houses here. Alright, so it's coming along. We got our entrance, but we know that there's at least one key landmark we got to put in here. It's the Croaking Toad. I think the Croaking Toad is going to be right here in the center. I think it's going to be one of the fixtures of the town. It's been around for a long time. Everyone generally likes this lady, the witch that runs it. Except you don't call her a witch, right? Put it right here. Put some steps leading up. A railing, little porch. And then our roof. Okay, and then we'll need something to kind of distinguish it as the Croaking Toad, so we'll put a little sign hanging out here, and we'll make it look like a cauldron. We'll attempt to make it look like a cauldron. And we'll have it hanging right out front. And label it the Croaking Toad. Croaking Toad Inn. Alright, so our road comes in here, and it loops around the stable, kind of coming in through this residential area. There'd probably very likely be a market or a well in the center of town, so let's go ahead and put a well here. So we have to have a way for everyone to get their water. They don't have it pumped into their home. That'd be convenient. So we'll put our well here. We're going to move so that way it's a little more centered. We'll put some bigger fields. Kind of expand this a little bit. We'll make this whole area farmland out here. Because there would have to be, unless they have bustling trade, which, based off of what I'm thinking for this area, which is a little bit kind of sequestered, set off on its own, we're going to need to make sure that they're self-sustainable, that they can produce their own food, and that they can live on their own. Alright, so put a couple more houses out here for people who live right out there. Okay, and then we'll have this loop around like this. The road will pass right through the center of town. And go behind there, but there's going to be some other things here. I think by the well would be a great place for people to set up stalls, like food stalls or trading stalls. So we're going to go ahead and put a kind of like a flea market or a farmer's market, if you will, right here. Going to put up some booths. And this is where people will come to sell their wares. So if you want your adventurers, or your adventurers want something, they want to sell something that they've got, that they've received during their quest, or they want to buy some items, maybe they want to buy some food for a journey, then this would be the place for them to come. But there would probably be some other artisans or other merchants in town. So we'll take a look at those as well, because we do have some blank space left. Well, the road continued this way. It'll go up a hill here. Go up a hill right there. So we're going to have it go up that hill just a little way, and we're going to put someone at the top of that hill. I'm thinking there is like a lord or a mayor of this town who has kind of removed themselves from the common people, so they live up on this hill. There's a little path. That's a pretty big path right now, actually, so we'll make it a little bit smaller, but there's a path leading up there, and we'll draw their manor up there. This could be a quest giver. This could potentially be an antagonist. Maybe they are a not so kind ruler of the town. Maybe they exploit people, take advantage of them. And we'll put their manor gate here. Has those little fancy spikes on top. The wall surrounding it. We'll put a lot of windows here. Maybe to imply that they're always watching. Or maybe just to imply that they have a lot of wealth so they can afford a lot of glass. Okay, so there's the manor. Make sure the wall extends around the other side. Okay. So this town is coming along pretty well. I think they just needs a couple more things to fill it in, because we would need like an artisan, like a blacksmith or a carpenter. There would be a few of those just to make sure that the town can run. I will add a few more market stalls in here just to fill up that space. I'll have those facing the other way. These stalls wouldn't always have someone at them. It would just kind of be when the market was running, right? Okay. Oops, accidentally made a line there. There we go. Okay, gonna move out, gonna zoom just a little bit. Not too much, otherwise I'll have to go over all my lines again. Okay, and put some more hills over there. And again, that's kind of hard to get to unless you take that path up. All right, and then over here, sometimes you might not want to always draw out every single individual house. So I might do something like this, where I put the road going out this way, and then I'll put a little rectangle, or not a rectangle, but I'll make some sort of shape. And then I will label it. So instead of drawing each individual house, which I might want to do that if I want it to look super detailed, but if I'm just trying to get the map out there for information sake, then I'm going to possibly do a little label like this, where I might say residential. But another option to that is to create those little boxes, and then instead of doing each individual house, you kind of do the top silhouette. So I might go in and I might make the roofs over here. Roof, roof, roof on the top end. And then I make some buildings in the front. And all that center area is, can just put another roof there. This would be pretty densely packed area. I don't know that we would want it to be like that, especially with as large as the rest of the town is. So I'm not gonna use that method, I don't think, here. We're just gonna go with residential area right there. And then over here, we'll have it come out once more. We can even have this residential area expand a little bit to account for that. Come in here and erase that line. And then we'll add some artisans. So we will add a little area here with a furnace. And this will be the blacksmith's area, because any town that's self-sustaining is going to have some artisans. So we'll make this the blacksmith's house right here. This is a little workshop area. Might draw an anvil. That way it's really clear when you look at the map right away what place is what. And he'll have a little fence around his area. Not a wall like the mayor or anything. Okay, so we have our residential area. We've got a blacksmith. We'll label that. We have a stable. We've got some places for people to trade. We have a residential area where most of our common folk or other people are going to live. And then we've got some grassy, kind of untamed area right here. So we could draw some grass. Maybe put some trees in there. we have probably an herbalist within the Croaking Toad. I would say that she would probably be pretty capable of doing that. So one other thing that we could use is maybe a carpenter. So we'll go ahead and put the carpenter over here as well. We'll draw their piles of wood. And then we will draw their home right here. So they would be available to fix anything in the town, both the carpenter and the blacksmith. They would be pretty pivotal to making sure things keep running. So we'll put the carpenter right there. And I think one last thing we could add is a little hut out on the outskirts. And we'll make a hunter live there. And maybe the hunter and the mayor have always been at odds. Maybe they came to the town at the same time. One wanted to live off of the land, and one wanted to kind of rule the land. I don't know, that could just be a crazy backstory. We'll put hunter's hut right there. And we'll put like a little bow leaning up against the wall, some arrows. Maybe we'll put like a pelt, tanning. There could be a tanner as well. That means they would like take hides from beasts and tan them, turn them into a product that people could use. Okay, so here we have this town. Zoom out just a little bit so we can see it all. We'll come in and we'll polish this up, make it look really nice. Maybe go ahead and add those houses in the residential area, just that way it's not labeled. It's going to take a little bit more time, so I don't want to do that while making you watch, right? So, oof, can I hold it still? Okay, so here we go. We have everything that we need in this area. We'll go ahead and we'll map that out a little bit more as we move forward. But this is a really good start for our town map, gives us an idea of where we can go. And then now let's see where this fits into the rest of our region. So I am going to zoom out a little bit and take advantage of this canvas. Okay, and I'm going to make sure I can still see everything, and then I'm going to draw a circle around this. And we're going to label this town. Okay, and we're going to label this town. Let's see, what would be a good name for this? It's in hills. There's a witch. Hidden Valley Ranch. No. See, I'm not coming up with any good names off the top of my head, so I might let it sit for a little bit longer and see where it fits in the rest of the world. But that's exactly what we're going to make now, is the rest of the world. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit more so that way we can really draw this area. So there is our starting town. And we're going to put it, we're going to start mapping out the land around it. So I'm going to come out here and I'm going to put a little bit of a coast. I'm going to come down here, I'm going to make it a little jagged. We'll have it come up like that, so there's a little inlet. And I'm just trying to make it look like it's a regular coastline here. And then we're going to get more into the mainland. And here it's going to thin out a little bit because we're going to have some mountains. And the mountains are going to act as a geographical barrier to prevent passage kind of other directions. And direct us a certain way. This will be the exit of our continent. So we will put, there is another city over here. We'll put this city over here. We'll draw it as what it is, because it's this kind of fortress that exists in the mountains. So we'll put that out there. And it actually stands like right at the exit of this area. There is parapets, its walls, its gate. And put some mountains behind it. Maybe put a little flag up there. Okay, so this stands in the path that leads out. So this is one of the places that you might visit, or one of the places that people might visit. There is a road that travels directly from your little town into that castle area, which this is kind of guarding a gate. It's access, so we'll call it Keyhold because it is the key to getting into this area, and it's a hold. It's a hold fast. So we'll label this place Keyhold. Okay, Keyhold. Oop, accidentally pulled my program. Okay, Keyhold is this place, the only other place that we know of, but there are a lot of other things in this area. Remember that we talked about there being a forest? So we'll draw a forest outside of this town, and I think the forest should probably take up a lot of the area. This might be a pretty wild and untamed place. I am going to leave some gaps for some other things here and there. So for my forest, I do kind of a similar thing to the continent, the coastline, but to differentiate, I'll come in and I'll create these little poofs, these lines, almost like clouds, to show the canopy of the trees. And then the last thing I can do to really indicate that it's a forest is come down and make these lines to show the trees. And of course I can label it to make sure people know exactly what it is if I'm not going to color it. So we can just call this the Northern Forest. Which reminds me, we need a compass rose, so I will use the line tool for that. Okay. Now we'll label it. Okay, we can obviously make that look a little bit more fancy whenever we come in. We'll put a lake here to diversify our climate a little bit, or our environment. Just that way it's not all just forest. And then over here, I think we talked about having there were some hills, so we should put some hills coming out of that area. But then beyond the hills might be a few lone, tinier mountains over here. But I think we should put some grassy plains that are just open until they kind of open up to this gigantic beach. But maybe we avoid the beach. We don't know why yet. Maybe the beach hasn't been traveled to for a long time. Okay, I'll come in, and something you can do to indicate the coast is making some lines like this. You can do the same thing with your lake. Showing this is showing the waves kind of crashing up against your coastline here. So I can do the same thing in my lake here to create those ripples. Of course, I can always go in and add color too. That's a great way. But texture is a fun thing to throw onto maps, and if you think about it, you're not going to have a lot of colored maps in a fantasy setting, just because each map had to be made by hand. You know, there wasn't that printing option, so someone had to painstakingly create each map, which made it kind of fascinating and interesting because each map might be slightly different from another scribe's map, which is why consistency would be so incredibly important there, right? So we have Keyhold, and still I haven't come up with a name. It's nestled underneath a forest. It's by these hills. It's secluded. Kind of want to call it Haven. Haven seems like it could work. That's a very stereotypical name. We get that a lot. We'll call it Farfield because it's way here out on the edge. It's far away, and if we look at the rest of the land later, it's going to seem incredibly far away. So this is Farfield, the town where you start. We'll put some plains out here. We'll call them the Plains of Serenity. It's a very calm place out here. But the beach is too calm. There's almost no life there. Alright, so that is a region map for our area. We have our town map here. We'll get that printed off. Our town map's right here. We can zoom out. We can see here's the forest. We do need to mark one thing. I forgot. I apologize there. We'll put the little woodland path that you found. We'll indicate it by these dotted lines, and we will draw the temple. Remember that strange one that was found out there. So we'll call this, or we'll label it, the Mysterious Temple. Alright, the Mysterious Temple is out there. So, ooh, it's so funny every time I do that. So, make that more clear. That path that you followed. But this could end up being like a secret base of your people, or your party, as they continue to adventure. So there's that woodland path that you had to follow to get out there. And so maybe this ends up being a secret base, or somewhere that your party ends up staying. I'm starting to develop my ideas of the way I would tackle this scenario, because this is just one part of your continent, right? I'm thinking it could open up really large into a much bigger continent. If we were to zoom out, it could be, we could have this just be one tiny island on a big mass right there. But we're gonna leave that up to you to decide. That's gonna be for you to decide where this map grows. We'll just have this one little region off here. You can make it bigger beyond, or you can make it an equal size, or maybe this just ends and it links to a chain of islands. That's totally up for you to decide as you continue to grow this world. But we'll flesh this out for you. You'll have access to this region map. You can decide if maybe there's some monsters living here in the hills or in the mountains. Maybe there's something in that lake beyond the Mysterious Temple. Maybe you know what you want going on with the Plains of Serenity. Maybe they aren't quite as serene as they seem. Maybe there's something else, maybe a little malicious going on. Maybe the beach is cursed. Who knows? This is your world from here on out. Create it however you will. Add what you want to it. Make it work for you and make it work for your players. Remembering that we're trying to test and see what our players want to do. If they really latched on to that lore with the monsters in the Mysterious Temple, have the monsters be unleashed in this other land, and they have to come in as heroes from this place way out in the boonies. Maybe these people are kept here by the people of Keyhold. Maybe they're assigned to keep these people trapped here because they are the source of the monsters. Whenever they venture into the world, the monsters come back out, or that's what they believe, at least. So maybe your people have been stuck here for generations and generations, and this is a secret that your players could uncover, and then they have to, as part of their quest, break out and break into the rest of the world. That could be a fun encounter that they might enjoy a lot. But remember to play it off of what they want and what they're feeling. So we'll get this polished up for you and make sure it looks nice and ready to use, and you can have this printed off, or you can just use this as a basis for your own program. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for our role-playing resource today. You now have a town map, a region map, you have a couple of encounter maps to go inside of that. You have the first floor of a temple, which could open up to a bottom floor and a second and third floor that you can create and add your own. You also have a quest hook with maybe some goblins who are setting ambushes in the forest. Maybe you're going to hunt them down and try to find out who is controlling them. And then there's also this element of like why your people are trapped here on this little island. So that'll wrap up our map for today. I hope you've been enjoying these resources and getting an insight into how someone might create these story elements that your players will experience. Remember that when you create it for your own sessions, you're going to take a lot more time with this. I'm trying to just give you a glimpse of the creative process. Even myself, I'll spend a lot more time working and fleshing out ideas either in my head or on paper. So just know that this is a basis and only a start. You got to keep going and keep fleshing it out more until you're satisfied with it. But that is it. Thank you for tuning in to some real inspired learning. Remember to always pursue your passion until it becomes your talent. We appreciated having you here today. Up next is Round the World with Mr. Walter, followed by a steam train lesson from Mr. Dorian. We'll then end the day with a New Minds lesson from the Vault and a message from our CEO, Ben Cook, the guy who runs the show, one of the guys who runs the show. And so check all those out. They're all on newminds.tv, and we will catch you in the next way that Into the Dungeonverse comes out to see you. So thank you for being here as part of the ride. We are humbled to have you and just want to express our gratitude for experiencing this with us. Thank you, and hope you have a fantastic weekend. And when it comes, may the 4th be with you. All right, everyone, have a great day, and we'll see you later.